want to share some tips and tricks just for how to use the lab in general. One trick, and we talked about it in our training, is when you're going to raise or lower the trays, do sort of a pump fake. You start it, then stop it. Then all the kids notice that it's moving before it's on top of them. And I also like to have kids stand as the trays are lowering. That way they're not surprised by it. So you lower down the trays, everyone's standing up, they get their headset out, they put their headset on, then you raise the trays a bit. I like to keep them probably about 6 feet off the ground because in that way they can still access them if someone shows up late, but they're not hitting their heads on them. The next thing I like to do is I like to start every time by having them put their headsets on, and then I hit all call. And on the all call, I always say the same thing. I say, raise your hand if you can hear me. And I look around, and then I say, raise your hand if you can hear me. And then I say, look at your neighbor, make sure their headset is on their head, their microphone is in front of their mouth, and their hand is raised. And that routine fixes a problem every single class period with kids who have been using the lab for years. They're always forgetful. They always don't check if their mic is lowered. They might not have their headset on and they don't realize that 90% of the other kids do. It's just a good way to start. It's a good routine. The other thing is when you're about to record, it can be a little bit confusing or cumbersome. Like, when did we start? Are we starting? Did we start? When are we starting? So you just raise your hand and you say, when I lower my hand, the recording will begin. And so you set up your recording, you get everything done, you've got one hand up, you point at them, and they start talking. So those are just a couple of tricks for like routines to get started with the lab. The other thing is when they put the headset in, show them every time. So you've got your own headset at the console. You say, put in the cord, then put in the headset. And you show them every time until it becomes such a routine that they don't need reminding. And you might even have a couple of kids appointed within the class to remind their peers. A couple of tips and tricks for just basics of using the lab.